100 days from the election, the country faces a bleak outlook. Over the past 5 days, the coronavirus killed more than 1,000 Americans a day, the highest number since late May. Millions of Americans are also wondering how to make ends meet. Congress allowed a $600 boost to unemployment insurance and a federal ban on evictions to expire. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said it may take weeks to reach a deal, as Republicans have not yet presented an alternative to the $3 trillion rescue package that House Democrats already passed. We begin this morning with Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Speaker Pelosi, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The Treasury Secretary said this morning that Republicans will introduce a bill on Monday. When do you expect to begin negotiating?
Well, we've been anxious to negotiate for 2 months and 10 days when we put forth our proposal that does 3 things. Honors our heroes by supporting state and local government with the healthcare workers, food suppliers, teachers, transportation workers, sanitation workers, and the rest. Secondly, that opens up our economy by having testing, tracing, treatment, and distancing to end this virus. And third, to put money in the pockets of the American people, unemployment benefits, direct payments, etc. These are things that the Republicans have voted for in previous COVID packages, so it was nothing new. It was more because more was needed. And then for them to come now when we're right on the brink, when people are hungry in our country, children, millions of children are food insecure. Many families who never thought they'd go to a food bank are going to food banks, and we need more money for food stamps and emergency nutrition programs, and they're resisting that. And again, that they would now be trying to they're in disarray, and that delay is causing suffering for America's families. So we have been ready for 2 months and 10 days. I've been here all weekend hoping they had something to give us. They promised it this week. It didn't come. Now they're saying Monday.
Will you stay in session until a deal is negotiated?
We can't go home without it. But it's so sad that people should have this uncertainty in their lives. At the same time as they are bolstering the stock market, and that's not a bad thing, but trillions of dollars from the Fed, et cetera, to bolster the stock market, let's have a commensurate amount of money to bolster America's working families.
Specifically on what has just expired, that boost of $600 to federal unemployment, Republicans and the White House are saying that they want to keep some money going, but bring it down to about 70% of prior wages. Is that something you can accept?
Well, let me just say this. The reason we had $600 was its simplicity. And figuring out 70% of somebody's wages, people don't all make a salary. Maybe they do. They make wages, and they sometimes have it vary. So why don't we just keep it simple? Unemployment benefits and the enhancement, which is so essential right now. And that's really where we are starting.
So a flat amount is what you're...
It's so important to the American people.
So
60%, over 60% of the American people support that.
No, I understand the difficulty for states to adjust their systems to process this, but would you accept a flat amount, something less than $600 as a boost? Is there a compromise
Let me
here?
just say, I'm not going to have with all due respect to you, Margaret, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some values that we have that apparently they don't share. We'll have our negotiation. But these are the same people who gave the only thing they have accomplished in the Trump administration on their own, the only thing they accomplished was a tax cut for the wealthiest people in America. The cost of $2 trillion to the national debt in order to give 83% of the benefits to the top 1%. And they're resenting $600 for single moms to be able to put food on the table, for dads to maintain the dignity of keeping their families intact, and with unemployment insurance, with assistance for rent, with food. This is an emergency. Maybe they don't understand. I don't know what they have against working families in America. They would keep this going so long?
Well, I appreciate you not saying you don't want to negotiate in public, but for everyday Americans who are waiting on this money, the amount matters. I know the argument being that this is a cliff and that people were paid to stay home. Now they don't need to be paid to stay home. So I'm just wondering for you, because the last time we spoke, on the heels of the HEROES Act being passed back in May, you said to me at that time, we have no red lines. Has that changed? Is this a red line for you?
That was in reference to what you said about the liability, et cetera.
I see.
But in fact, you don't go into a negotiation with a red line, but you do go in with your values. And if you're spending trillions of dollars to bolster the stock market, and I'm not complaining about that, that's
right.
important to our economy. So is this now. Mind you, we haven't even spoken about state and local. State and local government meets the needs of the American people. Millions of people, over 1 million people have already been fired from state and local government because of the cost of coronavirus and the revenue lost from coronavirus. If these people get fired, they go on unemployment insurance. Mm-hmm. So what money are you saving by ignoring the needs not only of the American people, but of state and local government? That's a whole piece of all of this that is essential to, again,
right.
not only meeting needs and meeting payrolls, but also growing our economy.
Some of the companies and even universities out there have said that they do need some kind of liability protections. Are you open to a deal that includes that?
Well, there are some suggestions that relate to schools and the rest. We have an initiative in California to that respect. But what we will not support is the following. What they're saying to essential workers, you have to go to work because you're essential. We place no responsibility on your employer to make that workplace safe. And if you get sick, you have no recourse because we've given your employer protection. And if you don't go to work because you're afraid of being sick and you have that job opportunity, you don't get unemployment insurance. This is so unfair. Let's just get to the heart of it. At the point of all of this is this president, I have a new name for him, Mr. Make Matters Worse. He has made matters worse from the start. Delay, denial, it's a hoax, it'll go away magically, it's a miracle, and all the rest. And we're in this situation that you spelled out some of the numbers very clearly early. Mm-hmm. So it makes matters worse. Now they want to send our children to school. The best way to send our children to school is to fund it. To fund it, the ventilation, the spacing, yes. The additional teachers, and to lower the infection rate in the community in which they exist. That takes money. Yes. That's in the HEROES Act to do.
Speaker, I do want to ask you about your former colleague, John Lewis. We know that the procession in Alabama will bring him across that Edmund Pettus Bridge for the last time today. You've crossed yes. it with him, and I'm just wondering what this symbolizes to you.
Well, the very idea that John Lewis will be crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge today on a full horse and carriage, taking him across with the state troopers paying their respects to him, honoring him, so different from what happened before. Your show is called Face the Nation, and I have this pin. This pin I brought to John over 4th of July weekend. That was the last time I saw him. Mm-hmm. I brought him this pin, and it says, "One country, one destiny." That's a nation. And John's life was about that. One nation, one country, one destiny. More perfect union. Mm-hmm. And again, these words were embroidered into Lincoln's coat, the coat he had on that ill-fated night. And just think that tomorrow, John Lewis will lie on the catafalque that was where Lincoln was laid to rest when he came to the capital of the United States, and John F. Kennedy and the rest. But Lincoln to Lincoln, Lincoln Memorial, 57 years ago. Now his he's sharing that resting place with Abraham Lincoln. So well, it's a number of days more that we have. We look forward to welcoming him to the Capitol. But the most iconic thing is that we know when he made his speech 57 years ago as the youngest person to speak there. Mm-hmm. And now, when he left Washington on his way out of town, he went to Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C., met the mayor there, and really passed the torch.
He did.
To see him there from one generation into the future. We're so blessed. He was a titan of the civil rights movement. He was the conscience of the Congress.
Thank you.
We will miss him sadly.
Thank you very much, Speaker.